introduce myself. I always find this bit really difficult because it's, hey mate, I just don't fit into one box. So you'll figure it out along the way, okay? When Nick said to do, did I want to do this? We just had this random phone call about, well, I could talk about this, and he goes, love it. You should do this. So when my clicker starts working, there's my disclaimer. I'm all things and nothing. So the idea came from this fact that I just sat there on this, and I got this piece of paper out, and I just wrote those words down. Now, I'm not going to read the slides, because you know what? I reckon you're all capable. So read, take breaks, breathe it in. And then what I thought was, hang on a minute, in what ways? You know, we create machines, but we also use them. So I could have gone down the whole road of how people are, everybody's read the articles and the blog posts and the videos of how I took a year away from technology and unplugged. But I'm not going down that path. I'm actually going down the path of what we create. So I ring my mum up. When I was a kid, every time something shitty happened, right, or something bad happened in the world, Mum would go, Yogia. Anybody Indian? They already understood that. But it means dark times. It's a dark era. You know, it's a time in the world when things aren't going right, corruption's happening, we're kind of valuing the things that we perhaps shouldn't be valuing. So it got me thinking, yeah, okay, if it's Goliath, that means today. So let's start with the dark present. And then I started thinking about all the things that we've invented as human beings. Now, I don't know if you can read those slides. I hope you can. But if you think of some of the things, you know, they found all these things with the atom, but they never thought they were going to make the atomic bomb. You know, that wasn't the plan. So some things end up being created accidentally, either due to ignorance or either due to the fact that we just didn't stop and think about the dark side of innovation. You know, when people do and create things, less than 2% of innovation studies actually look at what might be the negative implications of this. So if you look at the TV, yeah, TV, great. We didn't think about obesity. We didn't think that, no disrespect to anybody who likes to do box sets, but you've got time to do box sets, but you ain't got time to read a book. You know, we didn't think of some of the repercussions of social media. Great in some ways. A tool is only as good as the person who uses it. But we know about bullying. We know about paedophilia and people grooming kids. So just in case if you think my examples are a lot about children, I'm an ex-children's nurse. So that's where I come from. So the dark future, what is it going to be? It's misapplying what we've actually got. We have no idea where we're going with this. Our imaginations are wild, yes? What we don't know at the moment is what's the worst things that we're going to end up inventing. Yeah? Are we going to have dystopian cities, as Nick talked about? Mega cities, cities where people, the population's gone through the roof, but these are cities that are now technologically connected. So all these people who don't have know what the other side of the world has. The East meets West, however you say it. And is this going to cause mass migration? Is another future that we're going to get technology so far advanced that we're actually going to be able to create weapons that are as easy to spread as a common cold, but fucking lethal. And we don't know any of this. And the trouble with current advances is a lot of them is based on not wealth. That's what the world map would look like if we looked at the world according to money. But then I started thinking, what if we used our least machine-like qualities and skills? The things that make us most human. You know, we have a number of skills, okay? I nicked this slide from a previous presentation because that was the slide everybody emailed me and said, can I have a copy of that? We have illogical craziness. We can think up some amazing stuff. On the other hand, we can handle novel situations. We're really good with originality. We can pivot. If a car's coming towards us, we know, turn that steering wheel fast. So we have all these amazing human skills that we don't always, the machines can't do. We do that. Or should I say machines can't do yet. But when we apply all those skills, then we can actually do things like put a man on the moon. We use our genius, we use our brains, we work together, we all pull together, and look what happens. But perhaps we're doing the wrong things. Just a lens. My brain's saying, how the hell did we get a fucking man on the moon? And we haven't figured out how we're going to get plastic out of the ocean. We haven't figured out how that kid in the middle is going to get an education just as much as any of your kids are getting here. And we still haven't figured out how we're hearing stories all the time about girls in India who are going to, who are getting raped on the way to finding a toilet because they have to go out in the bush and there's no toilets. We still haven't figured that out, but we've got all these skills. So when it comes to things like this, I've been in love with Nikolas ever since I read his book. And whenever I think of what we're going to create and the world of the future, I always come back to this, And I'll say, and every time I say it out, it hits my heart, where the products of the intellect, science and art will serve society for the betterment and beautification for life and not for wealth and riches. So then I thought, fuck thinking, let's start caring. As I said, my background is I'm a paediatric children's nurse. If there's one thing I know how to do, you work in palliative care for kids, you learn how to care. And I started thinking, what if we started caring? And I started noticing, is this shift already happening? We're starting to question. We're starting to actually ask those questions that are actually empowering us to readjust to this technology. And what if we started collectively thinking about what to do with the future rather than who's in charge and who's in isolation? Because, darling, with great power comes great responsibility, in the words of Uncle Ben. So, I'm going to flash through some people who are actually starting to do this. Think the Future of Life Institute. If you actually look at some of the... Hi, Flash. If you actually look at some of the stuff they're doing, their strapline is, technology is giving life the potential to flourish like never before, or to self-destruct. Let's make a difference. Look at the Long Now. I'm a member of the Long Now. Hands up if anybody here is a member of the Long Now, so you all know what I'm talking about. So if you look at the Long Now, they're actually looking at, the future and making decisions with consideration for consequences, a little bit like the Iroquois Indians. I don't know if you know, but they made decisions based on, let's see, how is this decision going to impact, and how is this decision or action going to impact the next 7 generations? And they're questions perhaps we should be asking. If you look at the Future of Humanity Institute, they're trying to figure out how do we work collaboratively to prioritise the areas we're going to move towards and work on. And then the Foresight Institute, I think some people are here from there. They were talking about, I just love that quote by Eric where it says, if we push in the right directions, and that's what we need to stop and do, push in the right directions and start shifting and maybe still chasing our dreams. Even dark futures, you're all sitting here in this room, why? Because you're concerned about the future. Is there a dark future? And yes, there may be. But again, hope, glimmers of hope. Last month, Wired magazine ran this article. And it started getting me thinking about, well, what are these 25 people doing? It was everybody from people who were identifying cells for cancer and targeting them to people who were creating plant-based meats like Impossible Foods. There's another shift happening. There's this shift happening, from mercenaries to missionaries. The gentleman in the right-hand side, does anybody know who he is? Heather? Yep. So he's one of my mavericks that I interviewed out of the 99. And he invented this machine. And he just by this machine, he's giving employment to people in the villages who would never have got employed. The women and the kids who have got disabilities and skills that won't give them a proper job. And Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson are flying him in to say, how the hell did you make a sanitary napkin making machine for that much money? And he practically just gives it away at cost. So care is a really, really powerful word, and not a word we often use when we think about technology or skills or the future or where we're going. But you know what? If we actually start caring, we might actually be wise enough to make some of the right decisions and create and use science more effectively. This is Martin Rees's work, and I was fascinated by how he was saying the steps we can be taking in the future. And we can actually create technologies that will actually emotionally resonate with us rather than creating machines that we have totally disconnected from. And I love a phrase that he said. I would say I'm a technical optimist. We have the technology. We can do anything we want. We can go in those directions. But we need to start channeling where we're going to go. And we need to harness that so that it actually, we're focusing on the positives and not the negatives. Why? How many of you have read Man's Search for Meaning? Okay, I think it should be a compulsory reading book for every kid on the planet. Viktor Frankl said this after he'd stayed in the concentration camps. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances and to choose one's own way. So maybe that's the question we need to ask ourselves. Full circle round. All these people are trying to change the world individually. My question to you guys is, if Kalyug was the Dark Ages, Mum also told me about Satyug, which is the age of the Golden Age, the age of truth. But what she also said was, when Kalyug's happening, in the Dark Ages, there are people who are going out there and lighting the candle. They're like the ambassadors and stewards for the potential future, for shining a light even in the times of darkness. So my question to you guys before I go is, what are you going to do differently to ensure we have a bright future? Boom.